Welcome to Champ's Clock Shop, a pre-Christmas tour. I know this is sudden and we don't have those skill levels to warn everybody that this is going to happen, so you'll get to watch it a little later. It's one of those beautiful Christmas Eve days here. Neighbors. And we've got our blow-up Kit Kat, Christmas Kit Kat clock out front. That thing even wags its tail. Look at that, isn't that cute? So we're probably going to be on here for about an hour, hopefully. But yeah, he just come in today, so we got him in there. We keep running out of those Kit Kat clocks, and anyway, it's so beautiful out today, so I figured we'd start our walk down to the clock shop outside. Hey, Ari, how you doing, buddy? Glad to have you. Can you believe this weather? Anyway, we'll go in through the main entrance here. We did put up Christmas lights this year for the first time ever on the building. And if you look around on our Facebook page, you'll see that. Katie has decorated. This is my granddaughter. She decorated a Merry Christmas. So we've got lots and lots of clocks here for you. I'm telling you, we've got them. We've got like 15 and 20 of each of these. We've got a whole slew of Kit Kat clocks for you. We just got back in stock the tuxedo, which was designed after the guy who brought Kit Kat back to the world. And then the hard eye. These guys really sell quick. As soon as somebody sees those beautiful hard eyes, they kind of want to get that. So Mr. Big Kit Kat here, the world's largest Kit Kat clock, been on display here now for probably about 5 years. We had him on loan for a little while and then decided that we needed to make him a permanent part of the shop because so many people come back wanting to see him. But we've got lots and lots of rhythm clocks and just about every kind of older piece too that you haven't seen in years. Just little bell ringers. And you know what we really need here is Chevy, because Chevy knows the name of every one of these clocks. And I like the slow moving pendulums on some of these and the little rock and ship. But we've also got lots of grandfather clocks. Now, they announced this year that Howard Miller was going out of business after being in the clock industry for 100 years. We've still got quite a few of those, and these guys are so much fun. For a little bit of money, you've got nice melodies to put in every room in the house or in your office. And they do have a volume control, so they're not disturbing. And we've got the one with the map here, that's the world clock. And then we've got the one with the timbers on it. And this one. And these are on our eBay and also on our Facebook page where you can just click on them and buy them direct. Really good deals. You can even get them in a 6-pack. And then we got Katie. She's going to be the future queen of the clock shop here. And since we lost Mom this year, back in May, Mom was always taking people through the clock shop. There's Miss Sharon. And anybody who's been here in the last 50 years would have encountered her. How you doing, John? Hey, Jeremiah. Hello, Denise. This is some of our more exquisite pieces. I mean, these are real old style, like an old Aaron Willard clock from the 1830s. But these were made by Foster Campos, and those are some really great pieces. But then we've got modern great pieces like these Hermle pieces, made in Germany, weight-driven wall clocks. And here's our little Christmas display of Kit Kats. Yeah. You want to show them the necklace? Yeah. Okay.
I got this necklace from him too.
Yeah, you did. Okay. And so we've got the necklaces, couple different kinds, and this is a coffee cup, but it's also makes a nice little vase, or you can plant cat grass in it for your cat. Yeah, a little something different. And it's quiet right now. It's a good time because at noon, everything gets to cooking in here. Jeremiah, I hope your clock's doing good, buddy. And this thing here, this is one we acquired this year. This is one of the most little beautiful, well-made little clocks that we've had in here in a long time. Hey, Johnny, thanks for joining us. And then we've got this San Francisco clock. This guy got this thing as a gift probably 30 years ago and just never ran it. I mean, the clock never got run, so it's practically a new old stock clock. And then we've got some of our little rhythm alarm clocks. Katie's going to display some of them. I'm singing the blues. Wake up, baby, if you snooze, you lose. And Baseball Bear. Baseball Bear's got a problem. That one does. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thanks. Merry Christmas to you, too. Hey, Rita. Gosh, back in the 90s, we heard these things so much. Sleep, manana. And then we've got some more fun clocks back here that kids love these things. Merry Christmas, Ben. Welcome, Todd.
That one has a problem.
Get your butt out of there. Come out there and say hello. There we go. And then we've got some rare things. That's probably the only one that's ever been in this country. That one. Okay. And then we've got some lights going on.
And then we have this big.
That's a big one, isn't it? And then this is the Hitler clock. This clock actually belonged to Adolf Hitler's family. Not necessarily Adolf Hitler himself, but there were photos of him in the presence of this clock, which makes it kind of creepy. But the sound of it is fantastic. It's got a huge coil gong on the inside. I mean, this thing is gigantic. Everybody loves to hear this thing. Hey, Kathy, one of our best fans out there. Kathy's on all of our promotions. Everything we do, Kathy's there to join us. And then we've got the beautiful disc clock. It's, forget the name of the wall clock version of this, but this thing's just gorgeous.
And we do not know why there's an elf there.
We should have our Silent Night disc on there. But this is probably the only one in the country. Then we've got some other antique pieces that we've acquired over time. We've got a whole nice selection of cuckoos. I'm sorry that they are shopped down because of the holidays, so we've got a lot of empty spots. But, you know, we're stocking back up for January, because actually January is our busiest time now. And we will be open Saturday from 9 to 5. That's this coming Saturday. I think that's the 27th. Is that the 27th Saturday? Yeah. Yeah, we're closed December 25th for Christmas, of course, and then the 26th. You recently got a Grand Essence for Christmas. A great deal. That's great, Ari. And then we've got some other little artifacts that we just sit around here. My father-in-law was into restoring old radios, and he had restored this old 1950s TV. This thing actually works. And then we got this, just a regular little, like Andy Griffith phone that he had on his desk. But people didn't realize what all went with that. If you actually wanted to hear that thing ring, it had a long cord that went down to it and a whole nother box that had bells and a transformer and all that stuff that it took to make the old phones work. Kind of neat stuff. This is one of my favorite cuckoos. I don't know why I like it so much. It reminds me of the village that my grandfather was in right at the end of World War II. He was stationed in a town called Goonsburg, and he had the only Jeep there during their occupation. And there in the local museum, there's a painting made in the village of a solo Jeep just sitting out in the courtyard. And they've always wondered why that photo existed. And after I sent them the pictures of Grandpa being there, they finally understood what that photo was in their museum. Now, this is a unique cuckoo. Lots of great things coming out of Germany. This is good if you've got a really narrow spot, like a column, and you need a cuckoo clock, and got the owls on it. Owls was my mom's favorite, so we always try to have owl clocks here because of her. And then some of our great specials. I mean, you can't find nothing like that for $380 these days. But this is a nice 8-day cuckoo. And we've got your fisherman cuckoo. We're doing all right, Ari. Can you show me a rhythm fiddler clock? Yes, I think I've got one of those. We'll get around there to it. Hey, Henry. Henry's my neighbor there. I just seen him pop up. But Henry, you need to come over here if you haven't been here. Finally got Miss Eloise over here for the first time after all these years. And then we got Nick. This is my right arm. This is the grandson, of course, of Jerry Champion and my son, and he's been working with us here full time since 2014. Right. Yeah, and we've got all kinds of little rhythm clocks, things that are unusual. This is one of our always good Christmas specials. That one there, they goofed up on it. They sent it to the U.S., 50 of them, without having the proper programming, so it's only got 2 sets of songs. But that 2 sets of songs saves you $300. So you can buy that clock for $229, regular like $479 or something like that. Ben, I hope you get to make it here. Hey, Barbara. Barbara's been our neighbor since I was a little boy. Had my first real taco over at their house. Never heard of Mexican food before. And we've also got some vintage pieces. I mean, this little clock here, I can't make it work because it's got a bug in it. It just doesn't work right. But that's a nice little Seiko piece. all of these rhythms do fancy things. And look at this. That's an actual gold-plated movement. That mechanism is just absolutely gorgeous in that box. And you cannot even think of looking at one of those things for too long for that price. And then we've got our little house with a clock on its walls display. House with a Clock on Its Walls, a movie that came out in 2018 with Jack Black, Cate Blanchett, and we were excitedly involved in creating a cuckoo clock for them, helping them with it. This scene in the movie right here, I was actually laying underneath that clock about 10 seconds before they finally did the shot on that. And then they used a little AI to create SFX. Special effects. And then this is a neat piece. It's kind of a weird thing, but everybody says, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's a broke up rhythm clock, but it's designed just to display this fancy escapement. This is a part that ticks on what they call a gravity clock. And this thing had been laying in a drawer forever. And it's a shame just to leave it laying in a drawer, you know, so we decided to bring it out. Thank you, Doreen. Glad to see you there. Now, fretwork clocks, too. We like fretwork clocks. Also, another good column clock. This one's kind of unique because the carousel is usually on top. Schneider makes this piece. You get to where you just sing these songs all the time. So before we get too far into it, we're gonna let you see the bell ring. Everybody loves to see this bell ring. Now, in case you haven't ever met me, I'm Jeff Champion. I'm the son of the guy who started this thing. I've been fooling with clocks since 1976. I started helping Dad. We used to go to the Lakewood Fairgrounds when it was down at the old Lakewood Fairgrounds. And once a month we would set up displays and sell clocks. And I can remember being 10 years old and telling people exactly how this clock works and why this one's this much and how it winds and what kind of wood it was. And then Dad would show up. And while Dad was standing there, they would ask him all the same questions that I just answered for them. Something about talking to a 10-year-old boy they just didn't trust. But every time he answered the question, it was exactly what I said. And they kept looking back at me, you know. So been stuck in this routine for a long, long time. This room here represents something that you can't see anywhere else in the world. I mean, not only do we have the world's largest real cuckoo clock, I mean, there's buildings that are cuckoo clocks, but Big Ben is a grandfather clock, if you want to call it that, and it's a clock. I mean, it's a building that's a clock. But if the whole building is a cuckoo clock, well, it's a building that looks like a cuckoo clock. But this clock can go to the Jolly Green Giant's house and be moved from one wall to the other. It was actually made in the Black Forest, the Black Forest trees, and it has a genuine cuckoo movement. I'll let you see it. Now the little bird up here, I was misquoting this for years because somebody told me that the cuckoo bird in this clock was the size of an actual cuckoo bird. And I found that out is not true. That's the size of maybe a baby cuckoo bird. Cuckoo birds are actually pretty big, and love to hear them. You stop along the expressway down in the Black Forest, and you can hear them off in the background, and it's just awesome. We also got a lot of unique pieces that are one of a kind, prototypes. We were deep involved with even Howard Miller, which Howard Miller is the largest clock company. They derived from Colonial Clock Company, which was the prior largest clock company. But Colonial, being in Zeeland, Michigan, where Howard Miller is, and a lot of people are focused on Howard Miller right now because they're going out of business in 2026. We won't be able to purchase any more grandfather clocks, but if you come here, the clocks that we've got from them are a lot cheaper than they're offering them online. And that's all I can tell you, because you don't want to break that MAP standard, minimum advertised price. Can't quote you anything over something like this. But this right here, this little clock's a prototype. There was only one of them made just like this one, and it actually runs a pendulum, because when they assembled it, I guess that's all they had. And cute little clock, rosewood. But I actually was in a store one day and saw an original. Looked just like it. But Sly was good at finding a beautiful design and reproducing it. Sly also came out of Colonial Clock Company, and of course was a competitor for Howard Miller, but Howard Miller, I got to commend them. They stayed in the game the longest of any of the U.S. companies. We've got Hermley USA, and Hermley is doing a great job. They're going to grow now that the industry is settling down. They don't have any choice but to grow. And then we've got some little clocks for people with small spaces like this one. And then this was one of the first grandfather clocks that we ever had. This clock was introduced by Trend Clock Company probably about 1975, I would guess. And Dad loved it because it was made of teak wood. Teak, wow. And look at the carving, it's great. And teak wood has a unique smell and all that stuff. Anybody talking to us on there, Nick, you can answer them back.
Yes, the large shotgun is from the log cabin.
Yeah, that shotgun, that's what happens if you don't pay your bill.
And Daniel Gray's asking if we have a mauve clock that plays Ave Maria.
We have, the only Ave Maria clock that we have is in my granddaughter's future bedroom. And that's an awesome, that's the Dolores version of it, which uses, it's not a mauve either. I mean, it's I guess I don't have a mauve, M-A-U-T-H-E, but I do have the Yelk version, J-A-U-C-H. Now, but anyway, this clock, they made 50 of them in teak wood, but they had a problem. All the cases started splitting right up the middle here. You can see a little dark line there, and there was more of them. And so they decided to scrap the teak wood and go to oak. But Dad knew these teak wood clocks existed, and he went out and found a guy named Mr. Tunstra. Mr. Tunstra lived up there, and he had worked for Colonial Clock Company, and he would, we're getting out of range. So this room here, we're gonna have to move a little bit, but back to the bell. Like I said, everybody wants to hear and see this bell. Why this bell? This bell is the same kind of bell that's used in nearly every courthouse in the state of Georgia that was built back in the late 1800s or early 1900s. It's a McShane Bell Foundry bell. My dad loved them. He always wanted a McShane bell for the clock shop. Unfortunately, this one's just too big for our tower. So what do you do with it? You put it on display right here in the middle of the showroom, and you get this bell could probably be heard for easily 5-10 miles. Depending on where you're at, you can hear the current bell that's in our clock tower probably as a crow flies about 4 miles away, when you're sitting there fishing on the Chattahoochee River.
Plug my ears.
What's that?
I'm plugging my ears.
Yeah. The cat's coming to watch. This is Strawberry. Show him Strawberry over there. Hi, Strawberry. Yeah, she's just started coming into the clock shop, and we've always had a clock shop kitty. But Strawberry's been around here 12 years, and now she just comes in. And
Right when you're about to ring the bell.
right, we're getting ready to go. You ready? Y'all ready? Here it goes. That is really loud. This bell is 120 decibels in this room, which is, it's loud, trust me. When we're going to do our annual chiming in of the new year, and anybody that's watching it that wants to join us on New Year's Eve, we're going to gather here. And last year was the first time I actually had other people show up. So we ring this bell, we bring it over here close to the door, and we open the door, and we get this thing swinging. And as soon as it rings into midnight, we start ringing this. And I'm going to have to get somebody to record it from a distance, because I'd love to hear what it sounded like. I've got, maybe my buddy Frank can do that for me. But this room is full of all sorts of unique pieces. That clock right there, that is the Henry Ford Museum collection piece. Colonial did a whole series of clocks based on clocks that were on display at the Henry Ford Museum. I actually sold one of these to Joe Henrich, who was he was a president of Ford Corporation for a little while in the Pacific and in Europe. And but he had a very nice collection of these pieces, so we got that one. Now this one here, this is probably one of the most sought after Sly pieces that there are. It's the Sly 743 wall clock. They come out with it in the late 70s, and they continue to build it right up to the last year of production of 2005. And they got down to where they only made about 25 of them a year. That doesn't sound like much, but there's not a lot of demand for a 6-foot wall clock. But the people who want it bad, and they're hard to come by. And this one here is about as pristine as I've ever seen one. It's never been in any kind of bleaching sunlight, which is an important feature. Now, we're right here at the music box. This is a Porter made up in Vermont. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, Daniel. Now, it's a Swiss case. This company started up because this guy wanted his own Regina. A Regina is a European-made one, and they were just really expensive. And he says, "Well, shoot, I'm a machinist. I'll just build my own." So he did. Did I already shut it off or not?
I'm not sure.
I think I did.
Okay.
And we finally got this guy back in stock. He'd been out of stock for maybe,
You get a second go around.
Yeah, or we can do that.
Yeah, that works.
So this is a real nice Holmes piece. This is a 30-inch cuckoo clock. Real heavy-duty made piece. Real smooth operator. You get a lot of definition with a clock that size. And we've got, of course, we got the world's largest cuckoo, but we've also got this one. This clock here came in the same shipment that this clock did back in 1986. All right. So we had it on the wall till 1986, and I've actually got a wonderful customer that it belongs to, but he's in between houses right now, so we've got it back on display. And I've got almost an identical version of this clock, which has a different finish that's got sort of we haven't got it up on the wall yet, but it's got a sort of a unique finish that's sort of a frosted look to it. It's got the technique of the way that they finished it gave it more of I don't know what you call it. It's almost like a weathered look, but it gives it a whole different look. And we're eventually going to have it up on the wall. It's the same size piece as that. And okay, Mr. Music Box has discontinued. Close it back up. Then we got this monster. This clock here sat local in a residence for a good long while. And the fretwork of it is unbelievable. We haven't had a chance to set it up. I've got to make some adjustments to the doors and things so that things open and close smoothly. But I mean, look how big this clock is. I'm 6'3", and this is a monster. I mean, it's a really big clock, and it's an Elliott piece. Just gorgeous, gorgeous work that you cannot get by anybody these days. And it's stiff; it won't open. That's part of the thing I got to fix. And but it's also chimes on tubular bells, and they took allowing you to hear the clock on the outside to the next level by putting the fretwork in the back, so that it actually just let all that sound just work its way out. But we'll eventually get this up. This clock here, it just looks like an ordinary, gorgeous, beautiful piece that Charles R. Sly and Sly made right there. And this was actually manufactured in the Holland factory. Colonial Clock Company had been made, of course, in Zealand. And then the Sly Furniture, bought the Trend Clock Company and started manufacturing their clocks in the old Colonial factory. They renovated it and made it a much more practical factory. But when they decided that they were going to discontinue making furniture, they had a much newer facility in Holland. So Sly moved to Holland, and they were still producing these pieces there at the time of their close in 2005. We had a wonderful, very personal relationship with the Sly Clock Company and the people that worked there. And I said, I would love to have the very last clock that ever comes off of your production line that you produced. And Rob Sly called me up one day and he says, Jeff, he says, that last clock is coming off the assembly line right now. And he sent me a picture of himself standing there holding the pendulum with it on the line. and this is the clock that ended production clocks at Sly back in 2005. Got more story about it on our website and stuff. And but every clock in here's got a story, and I could just keep telling you every one of them. It's the same way we got this Hershey clock over here in the end. You might lose signal.
We might lose signal.
That Hershey ended 100% American-made clocks in this country. They made the movement, the dial, everything. Now that that title has moved over sort of to Chelsea Clock Company, who make nautical clocks up in Chelsea, Connecticut. But that ended, that particular clock, of the 3 that was shipped to us from Hershey in 1984, that was designated the last production Hershey clock. And that beautiful Howard Miller that's to the left of it there, that is a fantastic, going to be a end of an era clock itself. I mean, comparing it to the Charles R. Sly pieces, I always gave Charles R. Sly the edge because of the quality of wood that they used, the attention to detail in the finish. Sly always had a 10% benefit over purchasing any Howard Miller, but currently today, that is the finest cabinet of a grandfather clock you can buy, probably in the world. I don't know anywhere else, but once Sly was out of the picture, they continued to manufacture this clock with utmost standards, and it's amazing watching the production of it, how it actually goes together. They've got a system that eliminates a lot of time, but allows them to assemble it in pieces.
They want to hear it.
Oh, somebody wants to hear it? Okay, let me wind the thing up. Let's see. All right. We got a key. There's a crank. Apparently somebody else wanted to hear it too because it got run down. And we always try to leave these in an aesthetically beautiful stance. So I'll probably leave these weights in sort of a semi-arch. I don't like to see them run down like this because it makes it look like something's wrong with the clock. It just got run down and we forgot it. So Champs is not perfect. We do the best we can with what we got, but we do that's what we built our reputation on. So, but it has 3 different melodies. Now this thing's self-correcting.
Yeah, it's synchronizing.
It's already done the 3/4 hour, so that means it's not going to chime again until it gets up to the hour, and then it's going to give you the full. And this one, of course, is playing Cambridge chimes. Cambridge chimes? Yeah, that's what Westminster chimes was called before Big Ben was created, and St. Stephen's Tower started playing Cambridge chimes and became Westminster. So all this Westminster chime stuff, it's really Cambridge chimes, you know? So that's something a lot of people really just don't realize. And we had a customer, and she said, somebody's changed out the movement in my clock. She says, because I know that's Westminster chimes. And it says it's playing Cambridge chimes. And I'm like, well, that's what it was before then. So this clock was built before 1858 when they started playing Cambridge chimes in Westminster Abbey area. All right. Some other things, like this piece here, this is an authentic reproduction of Aaron Willard or a Simon Willard clock. Then again, we're based on 1830 technology, and the Willards made clocks that everybody wanted to afford, but not everybody could. It was the elite stuff, and so that's why they're still popular today, and they sold well, and they profited. And then over here on the other side, we've got another very unique clock. Now, this one, everybody's seen the Prague, Czechoslovakia, or the Prague clock, and it's not Czechoslovakia anymore.
It's Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. But this clock is based off of that kind of technology, showing you the constant relationship of the sun, the moon, the earth, the stars and constellations, and you can tell when civil evening twilight starts. And that's like if you're an airline pilot and you're flying in visual rules, you need to know when civil evening twilight is, because that's when it gets dark. And of course you can't carry a clock like this with you when you do that, but that's the kind of stuff this does. And this was made by Pearl Clock Company for their 10th anniversary. And this was their 10th anniversary piece. Jim Pearl had worked with Ridgeway and other clock companies early on, so he knew what he was doing. And these things were actually built in a factory in Honduras. Their plant burned, and that was another reason they were able to bring in stuff like mother of pearl, because you can't get this stuff cut in this country because of the cancer causing whatever about it. It's all done outside the country.
And yes, Linda, he will be ringing the bell on New Year's.
Yep. Well, hopefully y'all can come visit us. And then we've got this wonderful wood gear clock. I gotta wind it up too. I've got a great customer that has the other one. My old buddy Daryl. Daryl and I have spent a lot of time getting his to stay running just right. But these are a very unique piece. They actually had a large production of these, over 100 pieces that were being transported. And during the transportation, the tractor trailer flipped and destroyed the content.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? And that, so there were 100 of these made, and they were destroyed. I mean, you know, and they did all this magnificent research. This thing's got precision roller bearings that it actually rolls in, and even though all the gears are wooden, they're running in a heavy brass frame, like I say, with roller bearings and stuff in it, and then the weights are concealed inside the tracks inside this clock itself. And we've also got some Chelsea clocks here. I mean, Chelsea, you can't get the full feel of it until you actually see this clock in person. But that clock weighs probably 25 pounds or more. It's all solid brass. It's CNC cut, premium finished, American-made movement. And they quit making that movement for a short period of time and then brought it back by popular demand, mainly because most people that really want a Chelsea clock want a real Chelsea clock. The movement that they use in the standard versions is a Hermley movement, and it's a very good work. But, you know, it never was intended to be.
What's up, AJ?
The genuine Chelsea movement is. So, another thing that Chelsea did was they produced a quartz clock. Now, who wants a quartz clock? I'm talking a $5 to $40 little plastic movement in a clock case that cost 3 times what normal clocks cost. Well, Chelsea went a little bit further, and they produced a quartz movement like nobody had seen. And there it is right there. This thing has rubies. Shine your light in there, Nick. Let those rubies show up from behind, sort of. No.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I know where they're sticking. You can see those rubies shining through there. And that big piece that you see right there is the actual quartz drive. Yeah, we're getting a lot of love there. But that, I mean, who'd have thought? This thing's got gold-plated brass gears, and that's a quartz movement. And the little battery goes right up under there, gold-plated case. These are products of the 80s. And the only reason they exist here now is because my dad collected them. And they were in the boxes, hidden in this little storage room that we climb into from time to time and pull out some of this rare stuff.
Forgive the mess.
Yeah, forgive the mess. But you know, some of the rarest clocks we got are up on that top shelf over there. But Dad had a whole collection of different Chelsea pieces in here. And after he passed, I didn't do anything with it for the longest time. And in here, you know what's in there? A Whistler, brand new, old stock Whistlers. And what's a Whistler clock? Well, if you've ever owned one, you know what they are. And this is a Whistler clock. And the Germans made them with mechanical movements, and you could just hit the little button and this thing would start going whistling some tune to you, and their heads bobble back and forth. But this was a modern era piece, and but probably 30, 40 years ago. And we got a couple of those. This little birdhouse here, that was something that River City Cuckoo introduced to us. And they had probably about 600 of them. And I said, how about I just buy them all? And I did, and we sold every one of them things. They were great. Hey, Evan. And then we've got a rhythm grandfather clock. How many rhythm grandfather clocks have you seen? Not many. It plays all the same kind of tunes that most rhythm clocks play. And we're set into Christmas mode right now. It's funny, we've got 13 people watching right now, and I'm grateful for each and every one of you. When my buddy Chevy comes down here, I've seen that number be sitting at 3,000 people while he's on here going live, and he'll go in here for like 6 hours. Now, we mentioned earlier the Sly clock that's hanging on the wall, called the 743. This is the grandfather version of that, a 943, the Dorset. And so if you wanted the clock and you didn't want to try to hang it on the wall, you could actually get one that sat on the floor. And that is a gorgeous piece. This one here got a little sunlight in this day, but it did it gracefully and very nicely, evenly bleached across the clock, and the finish is in good shape. And then we've got clocks that were actually made by Colonial. This is the kind of stuff Colonial produced from 1930s all the way up until they went out in 1985. The only difference is the original carver of this clock, when the guy passed away, they went a couple years without any production of this piece because they didn't have a good carver for this stuff, and they did that on site. So this clock has not such of an old world looking cherubs or angels or whatever you want to call these. These are young, perky, these gals here were business women. They weren't just sitting at home doing laundry or whatever you did back in the 18th century. And then we've got this great piece here, and I hate to see all this stuff go from Howard Miller because this is some of their premium stuff. It's just absolutely gorgeous pieces. And before I get too far, I already wanted to see, I think, the fiddler clock, and I think I've got one. Yep. And is this it? I'm not sure. I think that I'm not that familiar with it, but that's a nice looking fiddle piece that Rhythm made.
Or is it the one where the two guys are fiddling?
I don't know. I don't know if this is the one that he was asking about or not. That's where I fall back and don't know what I'm talking about. And then we got prototypes from Rhythm. This right here is the Rhythm prototype Millennium clock. The where it says Millennium 2000 up there, you notice the wrinkles? That paper was applied there at the factory. Yeah, I love them too, Evan. Colonial's good stuff. But we were lucky enough to get this when we purchased the office displays from Rhythm. And we also got the prototype of this piece. The absolutely very first piece, and the button does not work. This clock does not have a works in it, a mechanism. It doesn't keep time, but it was a good display piece that they could show how the clock was going to look once it was produced. Now, Chevy Ash actually has the only production piece probably in the United States, unless somebody else has imported one since then, but his was gifted to them right here in this shop for all the fancy work he does promoting clocks. That's Timeless Moments, by the way. And somebody asked if we had the Ave Maria clocks. They usually would have been housed in a case like this. These are a standard sort of a mauve looking case, but they would have grandfather clock chimes in them, and those chimes really made a great sound. And I don't know if I can show you the one on our wall, if I can get to it, because we're going through a transition next door in Mama's house. My son's going to be moving next door, and he'll be able to watch the clock shop from 10 feet away. This is one of our other clocks that was in the movie House with a Clock in Its Walls. You'll see Jack Black coming down the staircase there, and there's the clock hanging there on the wall. I wish it was Back to the Future, but we'll have to live with House with a Clock in Its Walls just the way it is. It's a very cool movie. Kids love it. I like it. And then we've got these little eye moving clocks. They're kind of cool too. We don't keep them all running, but they're really nice. Once you get them up on the wall, they'll tickle you to death. And these are sort of memorandum to Champs members of the past. My mama's jacket, my dad's jacket, my grandfather's jacket. My grandfather, he was in his 70s and would go out on the deliveries with me during Christmas time and grab the other end until one day he fell into a bush. But he never let go of the clock. So we decided that we were going to have to get somebody a little younger to help us. Now this is one of the other clocks we got bunches and bunches of. This little guy is a great model. We got this Crystal Delight, I think. I've got about 10 of those left. And I think I got about 40 of these actually. And that's a real good price on that clock. And keep an eye out. If any of you guys ever wanted a t-shirt, you can email me at champsclock.com and say, hey, I want one of these shirts in a such and such size and a such and such color, and I will hang on to that for you, that order, until we can get those produced. I mean, we've got our own little personal collection up here of Star Wars pieces. That Emperor Harrington House piece, yeah, I'm familiar with that piece. In fact, I just talked to a guy that's got one of those. I don't know if you were the guy that was looking for one or not, but he's not getting rid of it. He's not getting rid of his clock. He just wants me to relocate it in his home. And that's a nice little Hummel piece. Kind of didn't want to sell it, but people have been offering me more than I want to keep it, so I may end up having to sell it. But we've got lots of crazy little memorabilia things here that are just important to us. I mentioned Colonial Clock Company. This is Colonial Clock Factory prior to the Depression. And if you looked right down the street in modern times, down there on the right, that's where Howard Miller is today, while they last. And this guy here, this guy right there, he is a Miller, and he was the plant manager at the time. And this was given to me by Tom Van Tamlin, whose father started the Trend Clock Company. He also was instrumental in Trend and Sly And then he actually went to work for Howard Miller there for a little while. But Tom, he understood design in a way that most people don't. And that's everything has to fit into the golden rectangle. What is the golden rectangle? Have I ever worked on church bell clocks? Yeah, we got our own. I'll take you upstairs here in just a second, Kevin. This is what my family made. Check this out. We got Champ's Clock Shop. This was, what do you call these, gingerbread houses? Yeah. Yep. Come in a gingerbread house kit. And when Nick gets to doing this, he gets a little carried away and adds all these little extra details. And it's really kind of cool. I'm amazed. Yeah, but you have to be detailed when you work on clocks like we do.
I made that.
And you want to make sure that everything's done just right. And we do our best to keep that going. How's this one doing, Andy?
So far, so good.
Yep. Yeah, this one's probably about 1830, and it took a nasty spill. Andy, this is Andy. Say hi, Andy.
Hi,
Yeah.
Andy.
This is my brother-in-law, Andy. He also lives on the property, and he's been working with me here since 2011. But this piece here took a nasty spill and was broken into chunks, and Andy's been able to put it back together and really getting it to perform just like it should. Even with all the wear and tear that it has, it's working really good. There we go. You talking about timing. We just walked in at the right moment, didn't we? And we've got lots and lots of rhythm alarm clocks here. This place looks like a rat's nest back here where we're at right now, but we've also got little kid clocks. I mean, you can build this clear case clock, and it actually winds up and runs. And I like it just as well as a kid would. Yeah, Howard Miller always had some creative designs. Sly's construction, you're right, Evan, was fantastic. These are pieces that I had as a kid, you know, and they're just cool little wind-up clocks. Where's my cameraman?
Right here.
Yeah. And, but here you go. These can still be purchased, and it'll remind a kid that all clocks weren't iPhones or digital iPhone wristwatches or something at one time. They actually ticked. Anybody recognize that tune? My grandfather's clock was too big for the shelf. Yeah, so that's some of the toy collection. Now, this clock is sort of hidden back here, but that's a 1919 Hershey with a premium A, I think it was an A or a movement number 1. Huge movement, fantastic, so simple and easy to function compared to some of the fancy clocks that were made over in Europe. And here's something crazy we did. You see this clock? It looks like a gallery clock, like you might see in a courtroom or something like that, hanging from the ceiling. And it actually was produced as a mantle clock. And it didn't sell real well as a mantle clock. So what we did, we turned the face upside down and moved the hook to the bottom and hang it upside down. And now we've got a nice carved gallery clock like you would see in an old courthouse or like Congress. Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's our old trusty Indian. And he always greets everybody as we go up. There's one of my personal clocks, something I just picked up. It doesn't even work, but I just love the way that thing looks. It's a Gothic cathedral sort of thing, and Mom's 1940s portable record player. And these are clocks that Dad and I restored over time. He had restored the first two, and when I went to work for him full time, actually before full time, I was probably about 19, but I completely restored that clock for a customer. But the complete restoration back then was like $330. And I mean, took every piece of the case apart, redone it. It's walnut, about 1865 maybe. Redone the dial, rebuilt the movement, did everything to it, got it ready, and they never came and got it. What a shame. But that means we get to keep it. And everybody says, well, what was your first clock? Well, it's hanging right here. It's an old drop-off cuckoo clock. Little bitty thing, probably about 5 inches wide and maybe 8 or 10 inches tall. Real cheap, but older clock. And that hung in my room from the time I was about 5. And it's been out here in the shop bouncing around from shelf to shelf or the walls since that time. So let's go up the staircase to see the big tower clock.
Ho, 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 everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. That's
We got you wearing that.
a little more ho than you want. But this stuff up here was part of our personal collection. Stuff that my dad found personal. I mean, or just enjoyed and just didn't want to get rid of. Wanted to keep it from now on. These little Ridgeway pieces, they were produced in about 1975. They're calendar double dial clocks is what they were referred to, but they had a whole collection of them. This is like a fashion, and this is a French made piece. Remember where we got that from? Old guy had it down the street here in South Fulton. This is a prototype piece. This piece here, they made 2 of them. And we've got the 2 reproduction pieces, and we also have an original. But Colonial made these with the idea of introducing them, but I think it's a mission style clock. And Dad had a nice mission wall clock that he had restored over there, so it was a lot of interest to us. I love this one. This one hung at our fireplace in the house for years and years, and it'd be nice looking to go back there, but it's a shame to hide stuff like that from the public. And then this is the original piece, that mission mantle. This is an actual original piece. And Colonial did a nice job reproducing those. And probably one of the most sought after clocks that are here is the Patty. It's an E.N. Welch clock. And that clock was actually given to us by a customer whose family had collected clocks, but they got in some financial problems, and she says, all I've got is the case. But she said, I'll give you this case if you'll come fix our grandfather clock. So we went out and fixed the grandfather clock. And about 10 years later, she said, I found the movement for that clock. And she brought it to us, and we installed it here, and it's been on display ever since. This is another prototype piece that Colonial produced. Nice thing about it is they actually made this clock in production, but when the factory piece was made, the clocks that you would actually get, this whole set of columns and the door opened together. But the prototype piece was made the way it should have been, but it's a much more costly way to do it. And this clock was made about 1980. Nice little pendulum movement. Just a very, very pretty little clock. But prototype, you know, probably might even be the only one there ever was. This clock was the last clock the last Yelk clock, Jauch, out of Germany. And they had strong ties with Kenninger Company in Villingen, if I'm saying it right. And they actually had this last piece. And this is what the movement in this clock is what the HTU movement was based off of. And the HTU movement was the last new design tubular bell movement that this industry started to see. And so this is what the HTU started out looking like. I mean, you can't see a lot in there, and I don't expect you to understand everything you're seeing. But when you see the two movements side by side, you realize that Yelk, Jauch, really had an inline, they were in line with what was necessary. And Kenninger just perfected it. Another prototype colonial grandfather clock. Yeah, this come out in about 1982. They made two pieces of it. It's called the Patty, and it looks just like that mantle clock over there. It's designed to look like that Patty mantle clock, and really a nice made piece, walnut. And Colonial had the ability to keep and make things out of woods like walnut, black walnut, and mahoganies and stuff, because they were grandfathered in with the ability to get this kind of wood in bulk when it became restricted. Although the black American walnut that has always been American, but their mahoganies and things that they were able to get were superior. And this was a clock that was actually sits where the Hershey is now at the house. Back in the early days, really, but it's an old style clock. I mean, this clock was probably in their production line for 50 years in 1970. And, you know, so essentially this is looking back in time, you know, when you see a clock like this. And I don't know the whole story on that. I'd have to consult some of the people that been in the industry longer than me. But then we had this really cool cuckoo clock. Dad saw one once, and the thing, I think it was $200 a guy wanted for it, and Dad says, well, I'll give you $175. And the guy said, no, that's $200. He walked around the corner, and when he came back, it was gone. So when he found this one, he just said, what's the price? He bought it and never questioned it because he didn't want to lose it. And it's a really beautiful piece. The carving on this and the wolf's design and its hair and stuff is so detailed. But there was a Schneider cuckoo. One of the sons, Jürgen Schneider, was here visiting. And Jürgen, we had bought a bunch of cuckoo clocks from them, really large pieces, and they're Schneider's probably still the world's largest manufacturer of cuckoo clocks because they're high production. They're the Howard Miller of the cuckoo industry. But Jürgen says, oh, you must let me take this back. And Dad was like, I don't know. And he says, listen, I want a copy. And he says, so can I? And Dad said, well, okay. So he let Jürgen take it back with him. And Jürgen sent us a reproduction down there. You'll see it looks identical to it, but it doesn't have a cuckoo movement inside. It's actually a Westminster chime movement. And when I went back over to Germany and went to Jürgen's office, there his set. And he said he made 6 reproduction pieces of it. And he sent this one back with some repairs done to it that we had not done. And of course, you know, we got little things here. These pieces, a little Thomas the Tank type clock. This is a piece that we got in with a company called Steinbach. Steinbach was a European supplier to the armed forces system, so you could actually get a clock from them in Germany, and then they decided to close down their German market and move to the U.S. So when they did, this was probably about 1983, 84, something like that. Mr. Steinbach brought all this stuff over. So these things were from like 1980, brand new stock, and we're still digging stuff out of these crates and things that we got. Just cute little kids' clocks. This little clock, everybody looks at it and says, well, why would you have that little clock in there? What's significant about that clock? It's got a cheap quartz movement in it. But you notice this right here? Carlos Holland made this specifically for Harold Palmer. And everybody's like, who is Harold Palmer? Palmer perfected the dart gun that you saw in Wild Kingdom that shoots a rhino, and next thing you know, the rhino's on the side. He perfected the whole system of knocking out an animal and then reviving it and send it on its way after you fix it, broke leg or whatever you did to it. And so this actually sat on Mr. Palmer's desk. So, you know, sometimes it's not the clock, it's the story behind the clock that makes it significant. Now, this is Champs Tower. This tower was built specifically to house this 1865 John Moore and Sons. 1865. That's the year they shot Lincoln. That's been a while back. So when you think about it, in 1865, this was premium technology. This clock was made in London, and this particular clock, I was able to track it down once we received records from England that showed their production models and details about their production, and we were actually able to track this down to a little town called Winchmore Hill in London, outskirts there. Winchmore Hill, and this is the heartbeat of Winchmore Hill in Douglasville, Georgia. This was in a residence. It was delivered to an address called The Chase. The Chase was the street that still exists in Winchmore Hill, and the guys called his estate Eversley. So when you go to Winchmore Hill, there's Eversley School, Eversley this, Eversley that. There were gate houses, all sorts of neat things that were surrounded this. And this particular clock was in existence there, we think, until the main place was raised about 1917, right after World War I, and the suburbs started moving out of London, and then they created a green belt, I think, over there to prevent the sprawl from London from getting out into everything else. But Jerry Champion, my dad, restored this clock piece by piece, and then he and I strained our guts out and brought this frame up here piece by piece and assembled it. And the one thing we didn't know was how much weight is it going to take to operate this thing. So we let the cables all the way down. We put a swing seat in the bottom for me to sit in. So I sat in the swing seat, and I didn't have enough weight at 160 pounds at the time. So Dad starts handing me weights and things and putting stuff on my shoulders. And well, when we got up around 400 pounds, everything started working like a charm, because, I mean, normally it wouldn't take this much weight to operate the clock, but when you compound the cables the way that we've done here, I mean, it's probably only seeing about maybe 80 pounds right here, but it takes 400 pounds to give it that 80 pounds and let it drop slowly enough that we can get a week's run out of it. And so The tower clock itself is English, but the dial is American. The dial is a Seth Thomas, about 1900, and we've got a tremendous bunch of visitors today. The lady beetles are here.
Oh, yeah.
And they like to make a mess in here, and we get in and vacuum them up and make a stench every time you pop one of them. But anyway, this clock, like I said, takes about 400 pounds on the chime side and about 80 pounds over here. And it is a direct drive on this side. This is a reduction wind over here. So when you see me winding it, it's going to actually wind up at it's still heavy. I mean, it still takes some force, but my little skinny arm mama used to wind this clock every week, twice a week. And she did it, and she never grunted and groaned at all, but that's why she always had a trim middle section, and she was always in great shape, and why she lived healthy as long as she did. This crank, this is my project while I was at Lithia Springs High School. Dad says, we got to find a way to wind this thing. I didn't get a crank with it. So these shafts are tapered. They actually narrow on the end and wide up here. So I had to put a set together and weld it together to make an inner core so that it kind of fits right. And it's not perfect, but I mean, you know, a high school machinist is not going to be what a premium machinist is. Might have some good ideas, but like I say, it's not perfect. But I created that at Lithia Springs High School in 1981 or I think it was 82. Mm-hmm. I remember my teacher gave me an F every day that I worked on this project because he wanted me to take this test. He said, you can take that test any day this week, just get it done to me by Friday. Okay. So I got over there and got busy on it. Why aren't you taking that test yet? And I said, well, you said I could get it to you on Friday. Well, anyway, I got an F for every day I made this. I did not get an F for every day I worked on his Volkswagen and transportation shop and never even came to his class, though. Things you don't forget. You know? It's a shame. But anyway, then when you get ready to set this clock, okay, I didn't make this. This is a factory piece. And you come in here and you actually put this on the dial. And you might look at that dial and say, well, you know, their phone's making it look backwards. No, it's not making it look backwards. This dial is backwards. And it's backwards because when you look at the back side of the dial up above, it's backwards. So it lets you see what everybody else is seeing on the outside when you get ready to set it. And then we do have a hazard up here. You don't want to step in the hole because the weight itself, in order to run a week, don't look at all that junk down there. The weight itself comes straight down, runs right down through this, and this is not where you want to be when the cable lets go. But this thing's been running forever somewhere. I mean, you know, we found it in a little antique mall up in Connecticut, White's Antiques. And we also got some other pieces from them. And that stuff used to be all scattered on the floor up here until the house with a clock in its walls moved and came along. Now, some more research we did. This is a railroad clock. And what it was is it says John Walker, South Moulton. Now, John Walker was a clothing store, I think, but he sponsored all the railroad clocks in England. And so that meant that any services that needed to be done, John Walker took care of that. This clock is also about 1865. And I looked it up and found out its origin, and actually when I was in England back in 18, I went and visited the up platform of the Deal station, and it was cool. And we went to the York Train Museum, and they actually pulled the records on this clock and showed me every time it had been serviced. That's some cool stuff. And then we've got this, which is a great big old huge clock, but it's opened up so you can see everything on the inside. If you had a large building that had a bunch of clocks that needed to all be synchronized at the same time, say like an office complex or maybe even a school or college, they would have a clock like this, which was a master clock. The master clock, with all these little wires and things, it would keep the most accurate time, and then it would send through telegraph type signal out to a slave out in the room or all over the building. There would be all these little slave clocks that run off the master clock. And there's a company called Delaney Antiques up in, what's the name of that? Where Boston, Massachusetts. They're up in Massachusetts. Delaney Antiques. If you ever up there, Delaney's got the greatest selection of antique grandfather clocks and old clocks like this, all sorts of stuff, the best you've ever seen. And so anyway, they just recently posted one of these on there, and I thought that was really cool. That's because I got one of those. And now, some of the younger generation, they won't know what I'm talking about when I say an IBM, because everything today is Samsung and this and that, an IBM, all right? So IBM was, one of the greatest computer companies I guess there ever was, right? But they didn't start off with computers. They started off as international time recording or international business machines as they came to be later. This was another English company, International Time Recorder Company. And then International Business Machines, IBM, and computers, mechanical computers, real electronic computers. But this is a time recorder, all right? Now, it's got all these holes and things on it, and it starts off at 6:01 and it ends at 700. Can't really see that. But why would it start off at 6:01? That's because there were 5 more ahead of it. Or actually 6 more ahead of it. You would have, let's see, what is
5.
it? Yeah, 5 more ahead of it. So there would be 5 more machines just like this, and there would be a line of people when they come in on a shift change, and everybody's going in there and finding their particular number, 613, and then on the inside it would record that I came in at 10:10.
Yeah, spin it.
And was it?
Spin it around.
Yeah. Oh, spin the inside? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this right here would turn, and there would be a card on there with 100 employees. And then when you come around to their number, it would come in and it would line everything up. And then it would mark the card. And we actually had the cards on the inside here. I just don't have them set up. And one of the things we're going to do one of these days when we get time, And we got lots of time for you today. And then we've got an older cuckoo over here, really neat clock. This thing has a 4-melody music box. I have not opened it up to see exactly what it has, but it's got one of the nicest sounding music boxes. And these are what we call red-eye clocks. Red-eye clocks generally meant that you're going to have a movement that was sand cast. It wasn't just a stamp plate movement. These were much more hand built, hands-on type of clocks. Yeah, that earthquake the other night did that. We had an earthquake that was not too far from here, and I've been finding all sorts of things that normally would stay straight forever, and then all of a sudden I'm finding things going or crooked or sideways or something about to fall off the shelf from that little bitty shake that we got. And over here are more types of time recorders that Dad collected. The Simplex, which is a more modern type. This is an English one. I've actually got a customer up in Rome, Georgia that's got one just like that. So I was able to study this one before I went to his house to figure out what I was going to need to do to make it work. And then this up above here, you notice this clock's got hieroglyphics on it. Well, Arabic numerals from not Saudi Arabia, but I guess wherever we were during the Gulf War. Kuwait, yep, must have been Kuwait. And it's a Seiko from Kuwait, and one of my customers sent that to me, which is really kind of cool. So that was in 91.
Yeah.
And then this clock, insignificant, or is it? Well, this is what we started selling first at this clock shop. I mean, the first significant amount of clocks that we had, we bought 500 of them. 500 of these things, and they had been in a damaged shipment. So some of the clocks were destroyed, but a lot of them were in really good shape. And where you went to Service Merchandise or Elman's or one of these, shops that sold things really cheap, they would sell this clock for $100, 99 bucks. All right, this was made in Korea, South Korea, and just a typical look that they had. You can just glance at it and know exactly what you're looking at. But out of those hundreds of clocks that we had, we sold them for 35 bucks a piece. I mean, what a bargain. I mean, and we were selling them out at Lakewood Fairgrounds, piles and piles of them here, and they were cheap clocks. I mean, but nice. I mean, this thing, it ran, I kept it in my house for probably 10 years, every month operation, and you only wind it once a month. And I called it my mortgage clock. Every time I paid the mortgage on the house, I wound the clock. If the clock stopped, I knew I was late. So, but this particular one had been given to my great-grandmother, who was born in 1887, and she had this in Ohio until she passed. I think it was in 85 or 86, and then that's when I got it. And I kept it from that time period all the way up until 97, and then we put it here at the shop in 97. So, I mean, why would you keep a cheap old clock like that? That's why. It's family. It's personal. But, you know, also, our tower clock came with its original face. As I mentioned, that the dial that we're using here is a 6-foot Seth Thomas dial, but the original face that come with this clock is a 30-inch piece, and it's up on the other end of the building. And I did not understand or know why we had this dial until I started doing the research on that clock. And it said that clock and that particular clock only for that year of production, which was 1865, only one of them come with a 30-inch dial. And this is it. And so that would have been what Winchmore Hill would have seen from a distance when you looked at the farmery of Eversley. And I mean, it was set up a lot like the Biltmore estate, but just not as large. I mean, you know, the Biltmore estate's just enormous. But picture a little Biltmore estate outside of London. Well, that's what it was, and that's where it was running, and, good stuff. And anybody that's afraid of mercury poisoning don't want one of these, because that's a lot of mercury. That's probably, I'd say 4 ounces of mercury in each tube. And that pendulum weighs a good maybe 20 pounds or so. And mercury, why would you use mercury in a pendulum? Well, that's because it expands and contracts with temperature in a consistency that keeps a pendulum on time and doesn't let the timekeeping vary as much as it would if it just had a plain wood stick pendulum or a gridiron pendulum. Gridiron pendulums are pendulums that have a brass and a steel rod. And so the brass and steel, they expand and contract at a slightly different rate, and that helps compensate for a clock gaining or losing time, and close to a mercury, but not quite mercury. So, Nick, did you have anything you wanted to add to some of this stuff? Anything in particular that
kind of broke it down.
yeah. And,
You show them the front of the tower?
I'll drive for a minute. You know, there again, oops, what we do there? This is looking down into the main shop. This section that we're in now was built about 1982. It was purpose built for the tower clock. All the stained glass windows came from a company called Lorenz in Decatur. Lorenz was a southern stained glass company that supplied windows for churches all over the South. And these windows was purchased in they were made in 1975, and we purchased them and put them in our house in about 1975. But they were actually like 25 years old already when we got them. And one of our windows was actually made in 1925, and that's on the back side of Mom's house, and that one is our oldest window. It's 100 years old this year. The big Kit Kat clock, yeah, it does work, and I'll flip it on here and let you kind of see the big eyes move back and forth. Here's our tuxedo Kit Kat. And then we've got some fancy rhythm clocks that do some great things. I'll just show you a few of these. I call this the garage door opener because it looks like a garage door opening. And then we got this guy. And they cram all that inside that clock. Oh, yeah. Cousin It. That's it. So it says good morning, good evening, and good night. I want one that says domo arigato, but they didn't make one like that. And then this is one of their normal everyday pieces that we would have several of. And then we got the flower clock. And we always got to worry about them colliding here. And this is performing musicians. Hi, Susie Suze. Yeah, there's a video. Anybody that wants to see the story about the big shotgun that's here at the clock shop. Let me go back and point at it while we're talking about it. I noticed Robert mentioned that in here. We had a restaurant down at the end of our street, and we went there every morning for breakfast. For forever. And when it closed down, I told the owners, I said, that shotgun does not need to be hidden in a man cave. Now, how big is it really? How big is that shotgun? That clock is 8 feet tall. 8 feet tall. The size of a sheet of plywood or the back of a long bed truck. That gun is 11 feet long. That is a whopper. But what is it made of really? What is it really? It's a prop. And the guy that did this was a prop master. He made a lot of the stuff that you would see down at the Georgia Capitol building that was not authentic real stuff, but it sure looked like it. This was made about 1948 and given to Buster Sutton, who was a local merchant, sales of gas and fuel, and he had a shop there in, I guess it was East Point or Ben Hill, and this gun hung there from 48 to 58, and then in 1958 it was taken to the Log Cabin Restaurant. So if you guys look up the Log Cabin Restaurant, or last days of the Log Cabin Restaurant, it should bring up the video of this gun being extracted there. And you will see Andy looking just like Elmer Fudd toting that thing out. He had a red cap on and everything. It was really cool. And see our nice wood gear clock still ticking away here. This has got a nicest tick to it. And we've got a lot of different grandfather clocks that all have a different background to it. I mean, this is Salamanca, New York. That was made by Fancher Furniture Company. This is a Hermley, manufactured actually in Virginia, and by Hermley Clock Company. Howard Miller's one of their top pieces, the 610 $9.99, I think. Yep, 610 $9.99. And that piece right there, we have had here since 1981 or 2. It was built to look like a Charles R. Sly piece, but Charles R. Sly didn't exist at that time. Charles R. Sly was still just plain old Sly, and they made a clock called the Centennial. Now, the Centennial piece, this clock was made from about 1981 or 1980. Let's see what they did. It was for their 1980. Okay, it was made in 1980. And I do forget a few things now and then. From 1980 till about 1987 is when they finally finished their production run on this clock. But this just shows you what they did. I mean, Sly produced some magnificent pieces. Recessed doors that were framed, a framed recessed door. And then when you open it up, look how nice everything looked in there. Even the back panel where the chimes come out, or where you can hear the chimes, was a nice wooden panel. I mean, nobody in the industry, other than maybe, well, not even Elliott. Elliott did not finish the backs of their clocks this well. We don't work on watches. We have sold watches, and I don't like to sell things that I can't service. I mean, I can put a watch battery in, but that's not what we do. And it's getting harder and harder to find people that do that sort of work. But these antique malls and stuff, a lot of times you'll find some of the watch clubs or contact the local NAWCC, and they'll tell you who to take your watches to if you've got an antique one. This piece here, now this is a standard presidential Howard Miller that was produced. It normally is supposed to come in with a standard chiming movement, but this thing did not come in with a standard chiming movement. because they had produced about, I'm going to say that there was 15 of them, but I could be mistaking it with 50, where they used a special movement that plays America the Beautiful. And this is not what you're hearing chiming behind me, but that's one thing about having clocks everywhere. And it plays a little segment of America the Beautiful every time it chimes. So if you wanted a really rare and hard to find piece, and the only reason they had these movements is Ridgway had the movements produced with America the Beautiful. And when they purchased Ridgway Company, they ended up with all those unique movements, and that's what they did with it. And then one of our favorite older Howard Miller clocks, we always called it the pregnant clock. Well, I mean, you can kind of guess why we called it that. It's got like a, let's see, what was the name of that? Goddard type of shell across the front, but the whole bow front and the whole clock's bowed all the way down, the glass and everything. Just a beautiful, wonderful piece. This one was made about 1987. It's in pristine shape with a brand new works ready to go find. Hey, Chevy, I was just talking about you earlier. But nice 1 1/8 inch beveled glass on the sides, and of course that bow front is really nice. I am not Chevy Ash. He's just joined in watching here, but people that ask about the rhythm clocks, well, do you have this one? I don't know, but Chevy would. He knows them all. This piece here is a really nice piece. Extremely heavily made, and it's got a cool pendulum reveal hole in the middle there, so you can watch the pendulum swing back and forth right behind it. It's like looking into with a bell the way it is, I could just see myself putting a light on the inside so I could see the pendulum even easier. But that's a really nice made piece. And of course, Maitland Smith is the company that made it. They were an upper end Asian production pieces. Got drawers in the bottom, kind of neat. And then we've got some real classic Hershey pieces. This model number 125, I think. Yeah, 124. They had a 124 and a 125, and the only difference was the actual shade of finish that was on it. But the only reason this clock is so perfect, it's because it belonged to my cousin. And at the end of Hershey's production, Dad said, you better get you one. Well, she did. Took extremely well care of it. And that's why we've got it here on consignment now. And then this is a prototype piece. That was the very first Duke of Marlborough. Now, the Duke of Marlborough was one of Hershey's very last designs. It's what they called white gold dial, rondium, whatever you want to call it. But it made an exceptionally beautiful look when you engrave it and reveal the brass showing through from the backside. Just gorgeous. And Hershey was all about, elegance and practicality. So that's why they use the black numerals so you could see it really well. And then it's kind of like, hey guys, if you got one of these pendulums, you might not be able to get but X amount for the whole clock, but you can get $2,000 out of that pendulum just because it's hard to come by. And one of the other Ridgway pieces that we've got on consignment here, you talking about some curved glass. This not only curves, it's sort of got a wave to it. But these were beautiful pieces that they produced. And once Howard Miller bought Ridgway out, they actually started producing this clock themselves, but a slightly different design. They flattened the door. They left everything rounded like it is, except the door is completely flat. And you could set them side by side, and most people never noticed, just like that door is flat. But that's another way Howard Miller could sell you something that looked like something else for less money. And because they figured out a way to cut it just a little bit. And these two pieces are, I guess those are the last two pieces I'm ever going to have of these. They just sort of a mid-grade standard sort of a clock production. They had Westminster chime only, beautiful pewter background, something a little different than just your everyday standard stuff. And then this is another consignment piece that we've got. Gorgeous bull of a piece that we sold. And, look how nice the weights look on that. Really cool and elegant. And another one that was just very well taken care of by a meticulous customer. And then we've got lots of new old stock things that you just do not run across every day. That's another bull of a piece. We were a bull of a dealer for probably about 5 or 6 years. Their cases were primarily made up in Canada per their design. And they actually bought Sly's designs and produced a bunch of Sly knockoffs, but with Sly's permission, and they bought the designs. They didn't just steal them like other companies might do. And they changed a few things around to fit their production levels. And then this is where Hermley's grandfather clock production came from in the United States. When Bulova decided to back out, they bought out the Bulova grandfather clock's company producer and moved it to Virginia. So little bits of things that you may not have ever known. This is another little Sly piece that we've got on consignment. Sly really spent a lot of time doing little blotting and dabbing and things just to make that finish finesse. You'll see, I've got a video that I've uploaded. It was the last days of Sly's production, and you can actually see them in their detail in that finish. Even on the last production days, they sought to make the highest quality production as they exited, and they did. So we're going to get ready to wrap this up here shortly. We've still got some rather nice mechanical wall clocks in here. That's a Sly design that was actually produced by Bulova, because Bulova, like I said, bought out Sly's production diagrams and things, actually hired some of their people to work with them. This is a piece that hung in somebody's house for 25 or 30 years. And then when we got it, the thing had never run. They had absolutely never run this clock. And it's called a WK Sessions. And very heavy made, very nice finish. And all that hand polishing really shines. So it's that time again, all these rhythm clocks start going off. And you get to where all you hear is a bunch of chiming in the background. These are some cool pieces. These are some of the first clocks that we were introduced from rhythm back in 1990, but our proximity to rhythm and our relationship allowed us to accumulate hundreds and hundreds of models that were discontinued And because we don't sell 1,000 clocks a month, the stuff has stuck around. So we'll go outside and see how the weather's still doing, and we'll wrap this up. I hope a lot of people get to see it. I'm grateful for the guys that have been watching us through this, and you can actually learn something about the industry when you start talking to the old guys. We had some storm damage. Big treetop right about up there blew out on December 29th last year, and it took the whole front of the clock shop off right there. And they went in and repaired it for us, and we got our dial restored at the same time. It's just sometimes things happen for a reason, I guess, because I've been trying to force myself to get this dial restored, and the dial is absolutely beautiful. The Thompson Construction did this for me. I've been using this family, their skills for years, and they just do beautiful work and quality work. And it is a beautiful day. It's 74 degrees here in Atlanta today. Can you believe that? 74 degrees, and it's Christmas tomorrow? Hard to believe. Here comes the grandson. Hey, buddy. Hey. Is this going to be your clock shop one day?
Yeah.
It is.
I know. I gotta leave.
Yeah, you stay away from them doggies over there now. All right.
Right there.
We're also on the film trail. And we're on the film trail for a couple of movies.
Papa,
Yeah.
gonna see the big bad wolf tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll go see the big bad wolf. But Douglas County's film trail, all the sound for the movie House with a Clock on Its Walls that related to, look at there, we get to hear it chime.
See the clock banging?
Yep, 3 o'clock. I got to go up and adjust the hand again. Every time the wind gets up, it hits those hands and it shifts them a little bit. So I got to go up and take care of that. But, well, anyway, I'm going to, I guess, switch back around here and say Merry Christmas to you. And thank you for watching. Come see us. We're at 3834 King Drive in Douglasville, Georgia, right on the Chattahoochee River. We got about 8 acres here, and it's sort of a compound, and we got our, this is our main drive. If you're handicapped or just need to bring in something, you can come in and park right here. We've got a parking lot right up there that accommodates quite a few, and we've got our chiming event that's going to be happening March 7th, 2026, where we have every single clock in the shop chiming at once. Everything. And honestly, it's a lot louder if you're here the day before, because when you get 250 people or 300 people standing in here, all those bodies tend to absorb some of the sound. But anyway, we'll have free drinks and lunch on us, and we'd love to have you on March 7th. But the next event is New Year's Eve. If you're in our area, want to come ring in New Year's with us, we're going to ring that bell till we can't hear a dang thing. And we sure appreciate you. Look us up at champsclock.com. We're on Facebook. And if you want to get into some neat stuff, get into Facebook, look at the photo albums, and find the ones of Champ's history. You'll actually see Dad and I building the tower clock, and you'll see me standing there on the floor about right there when I was 2 with Dad before the slab was even poured. So we got a lot of stuff happens on our Facebook page, and I hope y'all, well, you're there now, I guess, aren't you? So thank you very much. We appreciate you guys, and Come pay us a visit.